Welcome back to N.E.R.D.S! I'm your host, Zackary. With me is joined my lovely, long-forgotten other host,
Lukas.
And today on this podcast, we will be needlessly, endlessly ranting dumb shit about
Us catching up.
It's been 3 weeks.
Yeah.
About 3 weeks since we've seen each other.
Mm-hmm.
The posting schedule has been completely fucked.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I had no control.
I've done it in a way where it kind of makes it look like we're just posting bi-weekly now.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just because you left me.
Okay, so for people who don't know, which is most of people who are not listening to the show.
So all the zero fans.
All the zero fans that we have. I was hospitalized.
Mm-hmm.
I have a history of kidney stones. I've had my first one when I was 9. And I had another kidney stone that was 6 millimeter, which is a large kidney stone.
Yeah.
And it got stuck. So the night that I went to the ER, I had felt pains the day before, which was Monday. And I was like, hey, I don't think I can do N.E.R.D.S. I'm going through kidney stone pains. I go to bed that night and cannot fall asleep.
Yeah.
Because I'm just having some discomfort. And go into the bathroom and I'm like, I'm going to throw up. I throw up. And just in severe pain. You've seen me with kidney stones before.
Yeah. I think currently I've taken you to the hospital
twice
now.
Yeah. 4 kidney stones.
4 kidney stones.
No. You've taken me to the hospital for a kidney stone, and you've taken me to the hospital because I thought I had testicular torsion, which ended up being an STI, which is so weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was on my bathroom floor that night for 3 hours in just agonizing pain, wondering when it was going to go down, because usually it's an up and down thing. It was a constant pain. Ugh. Just a constant throbbing pain.
Yeah.
And the only reprieve I had from the pain was whenever I was throwing up. So there were multiple times where I was just going back to my bed trying to fall asleep because that's what worked the night before. And I just couldn't. And after the third hour, I was like, okay, something is so wrong.
Yeah.
This should not be lasting this long. This should not be going as hard as it is. So I woke up my roommate. They drove me to the hospital. And then it took another 2 hours for me to get into the emergency room, which is lot better.
Short.
It's a lot better.
Compared to the 7 hours it took for the first time, 5, 6 hours for the second time?
Yeah. But really, it didn't take that long. And I was just still in that same amount of pain. Yeah. It was getting to a point where I was about to pass out.
Damn.
Because it was just so much. They get me in, they sit me down, and they gave me morphine for the pain. That didn't work.
Ooh.
Which was weird. Like, it calmed me down. Yeah. But it didn't stop the pain from being there. So when I told them that, they were like, oh, okay, well, that's the strongest thing we have. I guess we'll give you Toyodol. And they gave me that, and that seemed to work.
That's good.
And they go through the whole spill and are like, hey, you got we do the CAT scan, and we go through the whole spill like, hey, you got a 6 millimeter kidney stone. You can kind of see it right here. It's that white dot on the scan there. 6 millimeter. While big, yes, it can be passed if you want to just go home and try to pass it. Like people have done it before. Or we can check you in, and there's a procedure that we can do to just get it out. Yeah. And I'm like, and I sit there and I think about it. I'm like, I've passed kidney stones before, but none of them have ever been like this. So I look at her and I just go, I think I'm gonna have to stay. Like this needs to get out of me because something is wrong. So my roommate leaves after being there. I call my mom and let her know what's going on, and she's immediately like, all right, I'm coming down. And I'm like, all right, okay, sure, works for me. And so...
Which, love you, Mom. OG.
Yeah, love my mom. I gave her a very nice, heartwarming Mother's Day thing after this. But I get put into a room. I have to wait there for at least another hour. I get put into a room, wait another hour. They give me some more pain meds, and Mom finally comes, and we meet with the urologist, and is like, hey, all right, so I see we got a 6mm kidney stone. The procedure, you're going to get put under, we're going to put a scope in, we're going to take it out.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, cool, great. So I go under, go through the procedure. I wake up, I'm a delight. You know, I'm like joking around, I'm making everyone laugh because it's just kind of the personality that I am. And they wheel me back into the room, and Mom doesn't look happy.
Ooh.
And I'm like, okay, what's going on? You know, still a little dazed because anesthetic, but she goes, okay, well, the urologist came and talked with me. The kidney stone got stuck because your tubing is closing. It is so damaged from other kidney stones that you've had that the scar tissue is literally closing up.
Yeah.
Because that's what scar tissue does. And so they had a hard time getting the scope through. And when they did get it through, they said it was like climbing up a muddy creek.
Ugh.
You just could not see anything. There was too much gunk of like scar tissue and blood, and it was just too bad to see. They couldn't find the kidney stone. So they put a stent in, and the stent was supposed to stay there to have the tubing heal around it. And they said they needed to have the stent in for 2 weeks, and that I could possibly go back to work, but a lot of people don't because it is so uncomfortable and hurts a lot, which it did for me as well. It was very uncomfortable and hurt a lot.
Yeah.
So Mom was like, you don't have to, but if you want to come home, I can help you get to appointments back in Arkansas and everything where I'm from, you know, where I'm at.
Yeah.
Because you don't drive. I'm like, and I take a second to just kind of think about it because it uproots everything, even if it is just a couple of weeks, you know. But ultimately, I make the decision, like, there's not much I can do by myself, and I don't want to just keep asking friends, hey, can you take me to the hospital this day?
Yeah.
Like, that's not fair to anyone.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, okay, I'll come home. So for the last 2 weeks, I was away recovering from a stent, basically, and trying to make appointments.
Yeah. Yeah, because you canceled on Tuesday, obviously. So we hadn't even seen each other for that Tuesday, that Thursday, and then 2 weeks go by. And yeah, and then this is the first time we've seen each other. So it's been over 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah, a little over 3 weeks. It was a lot of pain for those 2 weeks. I couldn't do a whole lot of moving. There was a point where I visited my aunt and was playing with my niece who just turned like 2. So she's walking around, she's running all over the place, blah, blah, blah. I'm picking her up. And after just like 15 minutes of me playing with my little cousin, I have to sit down. It just hurts too much. And Mom comes and grabs me from my aunt's, and I just break down in tears because I'm so not used to being able to just not do things. I'm usually good at doing, at least going up and grabbing a glass of water for myself or something like that. So the fact that like I'm basically bedridden had just kind of broke me. Yeah. Another fun thing is the stent moved.
Oh.
Which it was not supposed to do.
Do they have to, like, fix it?
Nope.
Okay.
They didn't.
Just kind of left it there?
Yep.
Interesting.
And I know it moved because there was not supposed to be a string that we saw. All stents have, like, a string that usually, like, when you have a stent, it's usually down within the lower bladder, and a string hangs out of your dangle bits.
Yeah.
And you usually after a period of time can pull it out yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was so far up, you're not supposed to see a string.
Yeah.
About a week into me being there, I go to the bathroom, and all of a sudden I look down, and a little string has popped out.
So like the start of a horror movie in space.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, huh, that's not supposed to be there. So we instantly call the urologist and are like, hey, is this an emergency? Like, do we need to go to the ER? Like, is this bad? And the urologist that we talked to isn't the one that's up here.
Yeah.
So they don't know anything in my case file. So they're basically like, oh, well, that doesn't seem like it's anything to be concerned about. Like, it's just a stent. I don't know, keep an eye on it, but it doesn't seem like an emergency. We're like,
yeah.
Okay. So we just,
thanks.
We just kind of stuck with it. And then we tried to make an appointment with that same urologist that we talked to, right? Who was referred by our primary care doctor that's there. They were like, okay, we can't get an appointment to you unless we get the records from the surgery. And we're like, okay, well, how can we do that? And they're like, oh, just talk to Mercy. You get through the records and all that. We do talk to Mercy, and they send them the 2020 records.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're like, and this is on Monday that we learned this, right?
Yeah.
We have this is on Monday. 2 weeks have already passed. I've been 2 weeks off of work, 2 weeks away from my life. I am dying to get back here.
Yeah. And
I am realizing that the appointments that we tried to make just did not work. So, luckily, earlier within that week, Mercy had called me and was like, hey, we are setting up an appointment for you to get that stent out on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
We were planning on canceling that appointment.
Yeah.
Because we were trying to get it done in Arkansas. But when we couldn't get the urologist, it was like, well, guess we're going to Springfield.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of pack up that day and are like, well, I guess we're going back. And got the procedure done here. They lasered the kidney stone. They got the stent out. Everything looks fine. The kidney stone is all out and everything. I just took some time to recover after.
Yeah.
But I'm supposed to meet with the urologist here within a month's time, or at least 3 weeks' time, to do some testing to see why I am getting these kidney stones. Because we think it's a genetic disorder. Mm-hmm. Specifically, my metabolism is not processing something well. And we think it's salt. Mm-hmm. Which I've explained this all to you before.
Yeah. Because it's like once a year.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we first knew you, or when I first knew you, I remember you got one, and then I maybe feel like it went through a year where there wasn't much, and then you had a couple small bits of moments, like last year, and then now this year. So
I get them frequently. It's disturbing how much I get them.
Yeah.
And the doctor who put the stent in is like, hey, you need to figure out what the hell is going on, because with how the things are looking with you getting kidney stones this much, you're going to be hospitalized looking for a new kidney by the time you're 40.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'll figure something out.
It's like, damn, brother!
Yeah.
Gotta get this shit figured out.
So, that's been my life for the past few weeks. Mm-hmm. And I'm finally back in work again. And apparently this is the best week of work I've had, because everyone is super man, you're a different person. You come in ready to work and just getting it all done. I'm like, yes, I've been you don't understand. I've been in so much pain and in a bed for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I am ready to get back into the action. My manager basically came up to me today after I got off work, which I picked up an extra shift today, and was just like, man, I don't know what happened to you. I don't know if it's the drugs that they got you on, but you did so well this week, because I worked Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And we did 8,500.
Damn.
The most that we've ever done like in a single day.
Yeah.
And it was the smoothest ride we've ever had.
Damn.
Like, it was a smooth ass day for whatever reason. And they were just like, he was just like, man, I'm so proud of how far you've come, and like, this was legit probably your best week that I've seen you do. I'm so glad to have you back, and just keep it up.
Yeah.
And God, man, sorry I'm rambling, but I just gotta say, like, freaking, my coworkers made me cry because I come back and after that first day, get my work done, and then my very good friend Jessica comes up to me and is like, Lucas, this is for you, and hands me an envelope.
Aww.
And I'm like, okay. And I look, and it's just full of cash.
Damn.
And I'm just, I'm out here, and I'm like, I can't accept this. And like, she's like, no, we saved up money for you when you got back, because we didn't want you, like, not to be able to come here or be off your feet for a little bit. Yeah. So
that's so sweet.
And it was so sweet, and it made me cry because I'm a big bubble boy baby. And it was just very sweet of them. They got me like $125.
Damn.
Which is not something to sneeze at.
Yeah.
So I was very, very grateful.
So the moral of the story, if you feel unloved, take about 2 weeks of sick time and then come back. Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty quiet here because since you left, we weren't doing Cyberpunk or Dragon Realms, and so I've also been craving, in a weird time, the week that you left, we were going to do the last episode of Dragon Realms, and then we were going to do a small, like, 2 to 3 week, like, mini campaign for Vampire the Masquerade. Then you bail out, go to Arkansas, and I was like, well, it's kind of a perfect opportunity to just do that anyways. So we've switched to Vampire on Tuesday and then doing nothing on Thursday. But it's been a quiet 3 weeks. Because, I mean, that's the only...
I mean, it threw off everyone's, like, schedule for me to be gone.
And we only had 3 out of the 4 people that we normally have on Tuesday, because my bestie runs Cyberpunk on Tuesday, and they work. Damn, it just started raining.
Yeah, we got storms coming.
My bestie works on Thursday, so they can't do Dragon Realms, but I was like, well, what if we switch Vampire to Tuesday? You could join. It's been a while since you've done Vampire with me. It's been a while since I've been able to DM for you. And then another one of our friends kind of took the two weeks to himself, so... It's been kind of unnervingly quiet here. So we've got this week we're doing our last episode of Vampire, and then we start,
which I'm so excited because I can actually join.
Yes. And then we start a regularly scheduled program with Cyberpunk next week, Dragon Realms on Thursday. So it's been, I don't want to say boring, because it's been nice to just kind of do my own thing.
Yeah, it's a good reprieve.
But it's also, I've noticed that, like, it's just been very, like, to myself. Yeah, I'm not really talking to anyone. Nothing's really happening. I'm not, we haven't really gone out much. It also hasn't helped that it's quite literally stormed the last 2 weeks. It almost seems like every single day.
Oh, yeah. It was the same way in Arkansas. Like, we were just getting rain and rain. Which... God bless them farmers right now, because farmers are eating it up. Yeah, they're just like, oh my God, we haven't had rain for real, we haven't had rain like this in a long time.
Like, every weekend it feels like it thunderstorms all day. And if not all day, it's like off and on, like today, where it's like heavy and then it stops and then it's heavy.
For sure.
But, what do we start with? I've got at least... like 2 or 3 things to talk about.
I've got a couple of things.
You just want to go one each?
Yeah, you go ahead, because I've already rambled a lot about
Then I'll do my biggest rambling one.
Sure. You've got it written down.
Not written down, but I have it pulled up. 82 hours later, I have finished Dragon's Dogma.
Oh, you finished it?
Yeah, it's been 3 weeks since we've talked.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
And I have my review.
Okay.
Overall... I give it like a 7 out of 10.
Sounds about right.
I took my time. 80 hours. Did almost everything. I'm upset that I missed one area, which happened to be the area with the Sphinx. I just got like a little too far into exploring, and then one afternoon I was like, oh, I want to kind of finish it, and I pulled up the map and I was like, oh shit. But gameplay is like a solid, like dealing with actual gameplay is like a solid 9 or 10 out of 10. It feels amazing to play. It's beautiful to like kind of not, you can't really button mash, so you plan and you attack and then you kind of do your abilities. They all feel wonderful, they all look wonderful. Getting to switch between vocations, which are your classes, on the fly, not on the fly, but incredibly easily. So you have full range of, okay, what if I want to play a warrior, and then I can head back to town and switch to a mage now.
It's very Final Fantasy 3.
It's very nice. I know very, very few games that let you switch classes like that. And that's, I mean, Dragon Age, the Soulsborne series are all like, once you choose a class, you're stuck with it the entire game. Baldur's Gate, Baldur's Gate doesn't quite do that because you can kind of do withers and then change your class. But this is cool because when you change it, it gives you full equipment. Yeah, so it gives you like starting out your weapon, starting out armor. So gameplay wise, 9, 10 out of 10, wonderful. Environment, 8 out of 10. Exploring was kind of really the big thing about this game. It was enjoyable. A lot of the caves felt fun to go through. So exploring was pretty fun, and there was always kind of somewhere to go to, and it always felt, there was a lot of moments where I felt myself wanting to make sure I could rest to get to daytime, because at night they do it like what is actual nighttime. It is so hard to see anything, and your lantern glow is not big enough. So you're essentially like, well, I'm only walking on the path at night, because exploration is kind of just impossible. You can. It's just hard to know where you are. Yeah. So there's a lot of times where I'm like, well, I want to make sure I rest so I can, see the chest off and the little mound and all that. So yeah, gameplay felt wonderful. Exploration in the environment felt wonderful. Then we kind of start to go downhill a little bit. Story-wise is like a solid 5.
Okay.
There really isn't a story.
Okay.
And if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of spoil it or talk about it.
I'm totally fine with it. I don't know when I'm going to get to the game. So
it's honestly, the great way to explain it is it feels something of like Skyrim if you didn't know like the whole like go to be a Dragonborn, go to High Hrothgar, do all that was the main storyline. If you just kind of thought that was a quest, like a side quest, that's kind of how Dragon's Dogma feels. You wake up as the Arisen, which is a person chosen by the dragon to fight. In this world, the Arisen becomes king or the ruler. They command pawns, which are sentient, non-souled people that sole purpose is just to abide the Arisen. Like, it's not slavery. They fully want to do it. They like their entire purpose is just to serve the Arisen. And we don't really know anything about them. They are multidimensional. You play with other people's pawns. So, like, you build yourself a main pawn, and other Arisens in other dimensions can call upon your pawn and make a party comp, essentially. But the big plot is that the queen of the main area, Vermund, doesn't want to stop being queen, so she takes you, sells you off to slavery, and puts a fake Arisen up. And the whole point of the story is you realize what's happening. The game starts at the like slave quarry, which is fucked because it's a pawn slave quarry, so it's just pawns because they can't resist. They can't like say no to anything. They're just kind of like, I'm here to serve the Arisen. There's no Arisen. Tell me what to do. And so they just force them to do manual labor. And we learn a little bit more towards the end. But you free yourself, and then you get to Vermont. You meet a captain named, I think, Brant or Brian. I think it's Brant. Who's like, hey, Queen's an evil bitch. It's a fake, Arisen. Because he first thinks you're the actual, you're an imposter.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, it's a fake Arisen. We've got to fix this because, you should be the ruler. You're destined to fight the dragon. And so what feels like the first half of the game is you need to make the people see that you're the real version. So it's just like 5 side quests of like, go to this town and talk to them, and they have a small thing of like, we've got lizard problems, help us fight them. Go to this place and do something. Like, it's kind of just, it's not a fetch quest.
So by being an adventurer, you prove yourself as the Arisen?
Because no one really knows you're Arisen. It's not that. That's really weird. Because, publicly, the Arisen is sitting on the throne.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just some person that's like, no, I'm the real Arisen. And people are like, what the fuck? No. So you kind of have to be like, no, I am. I saved this village. I went back and I've fought off a Drake attack. Like, you kind of have to do certain things.
You basically need to build up your title.
You kind of have to build up your reputation.
That
makes
like, sense.
Okay, not terrible. And then the next big thing is like, well, you've done that. You talk to, which I love him. He's so adorable. You talk to the queen's son, Sten, who's like, my mother is like doing something fucked up, and like kind of helps you with some stuff. And he's like, if I can find some information, I'll tell you. And you kind of like sneak into the castle and talk to him a few times. But you kind of just go on some fetch quests of, hey, look into this letter. Hey, look into that. Hey, do this. Hey, go to the masquerade, because apparently you're supposed to be able to talk to someone, and then you go to the masquerade, and you push comes to shove, you wind up in a brothel, and you kind of... It's one of those things of like, I can't even remember how you get there. I think it's... I genuinely, honestly cannot remember how you get there, but you go through like a back route, and it leads up to the brothel, and the owner is like, what are you doing spying? And you kind of tell her, and she's like, oh, and like shows you a peek hole, and it shows the fake Arisen like drinking with a bunch of women. And so you just kind of do a bunch of fetch quests, and like then the next big thing is, okay, we've got to stop the coronation. That's the time where you show yourself as a true Arisen. You've built up your reputation. That whole thing is not finalized, but shown and finished in a cutscene, where the cutscene is you like running up to the door to the coronation, and like just before you get there, your main pawn's like, ah, like starts to scream, and he's like, we have to leave, and you're like, what the fuck? And so then you leave. But that's all just cutscene, and you're like, okay, and then you kind of are sent like a few more fetch quests, and then eventually you learn that the fake Arisen holds something called the God's Bane, or the God's Way, which is, we learn later what it is, but it's something that just lets someone have power over pawns. Like, it's like a fake Arisen. And so that becomes the next big thing, is figure out what the God's Way is. Or God's Bane, I can't remember what it is. And so you kind of you finish Vermoon, to the human capital, and it's like, go to Backbatal, which is the beast-string capital. It's like Middle Eastern inspired. It's really beautiful and cool. But there's not really anything there either. You kind of get there and you do some quests to figure out what like the God's Bane is. You talk to an oracle. You talk to, the Empress's like second in commands, and eventually you go through some things, and you an island comes up out of the ocean, and you go through that, and you find the first ever Arisen. Not the first Arisen. It's the creator of Vermoon. The first... I don't know if he's the first Arisen or just the Arisen that created the capital. And he's still alive, like centuries later. And essentially he's gone mad, but is in like... someone's trying to hunt him, and I can't even remember if we figured out who that someone is. But he gives you his soul, and you make a God's Bane, like a sword. And all while you're kind of doing some side quests, which kind of feel like main quests, but aren't main quests. And you learn about a dude named it's Thaddeus, or Thaddeus, or I think it's Thaddeus, which is like the queen's kind of lover, but is also the one that is holding the God's Bane, or was the one that like created it or found it. And so you create your own God's Bane or God's Way. I think it's God's Bane. And then it's like the person that creates it's like, you got to bring this to Lord Thaddeus. He wants it, and you're like, sure. And then you kind of just hit endgame, which is just kind of chasing him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got a cool scene where you meet Gigantus, which has been rumored to be the ocean's champion. The kind of lore is like the dragon is evil. Not really. He's just a force of nature. And the ocean contains a thing called the brine, which is like... essentially, if you touch the water, it's like insta-dead.
Oh.
And it's the ocean's way of keeping the dragon in balance. And it's rumored that the ocean, or the brine, has a protector called Gigantus, which in incredibly dangerous times they summon. And they summon it, and it's this huge fucking, like, titan, and it's chasing Lord Thaddeus, because he holds the God's Bane, and it's uprooting, like, nature. And so you chase it and also try to destroy it, and it's Shadow of the Colossus. You're climbing up, destroying God's Bane crystals on it. It's a cool spectacle, all while you're kind of going through, because it's like Vermund, and then you kind of go around to the left, and then it gets to Back Batal, which is like orange giant craters of rocks, and it's Egyptian and Middle Eastern style, and then you hit Volcanic Isle. And so that's the Gigantus kind of leads you through essentially a, what is it called? Side scroller, where you're kind of just following him. But that's kind of, you eventually get there, and then it's like, confront Lord Thaddeus, who holds the God's Bane. And you're like, okay. And so you kind of follow him deeper into this quarry, which is the quarry that you were imprisoned with in the beginning. Find him, and he's like, you're too late. Well, not true. He's like, men, stop him. And what would be a boss fight is you just fighting like 6 people who are like different vocations, but not really
a problem.
Yeah, I was just like, and he's like all chanting, and then you defeat them, and he's like, you're too late. And he summons a drake, which you can fight drakes before, but this one's gross. It's like covered in boils and like red pustules, and he's like, I have disrupted nature and blah blah blah, and like the sky's swirling, and then you hear a sound, and you're like, what the fuck? And you like, the camera pans up, and it's the dragon, and he descends. And to explain the size difference between the drake that he summons, which is supposed to look big, and the dragon, is like the feeling of, how do we even explain it? It's like the difference between like a cat and then like a Doberman. Like it comes descending down upon this drake and slams it into the earth, and is like, it kind of does this big speech of like, I am inevitable. You can never like take claim over me or attempt to make a false me. And then you're given the choice. The dragon holds Thaddeus and is like, you can resurrect him and I'll let you go, or you can face me and do what you're supposed to do, why I created you, which is fight me and see who wins. Because the dragon's whole thing is like force of will. Like, do you have the force of will to fight me? And that's kind of why you do your adventure. Because you meet Arisens before. You meet Arisen, who gives you the class that lets you kind of multi-class, and he's like, I failed. I did not have a strong enough will to defeat my dragon, and so I failed as the Arisen. And so you hear and you kind of meet some Arisens who are just like, either I succeeded or I completely wasn't strong enough.
That's interesting.
You fight the dragon, which is kind of a pushover. If you understand the game and you understand how to play a game. I just played Sorcerer, and once his weak spot was open, he went from, because he's got like 7 health bars. It's like Sekiro, which is like dot-based health bars. So you defeat it and the dot goes away. You defeat it and the dot goes away.
Yeah, it's Kingdom Hearts does that.
Yeah, he had 7. I got him down to 5. His weakening opened, and then I one-shot him. And I was like, and he gives this big speech of, like, maybe you might be better. Maybe your force of will could change things. But you would have to do it. And then he dies. And you're like,
what does that mean?
And I was like, maybe this is going to be like a Dark Souls, like, walk away from the Linkening. And then the end cutscene happens where you become King of Vermund and the game ends. And I was like, what? So the story was just very like there was no story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you were being told the story, you just weren't doing anything a part of it. Which I knew, like, coming into this, I wasn't expecting grand boss fights. I know Dragon Dogma. I've played the first one a good amount, like, I think 20, 30 hours. I knew coming into this, Dragon's Dogma is not like normal video games where you do boss fights, like Legend of Zelda, and you're fighting Ganon in the end. Like, I knew it was more of a... I would originally have said story-based system or game, but the story itself wasn't even really there. It was just kind of, hey, first of all, we got no resolution to Queen Disa.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't die. She wasn't, It was just, once you leave Vermund, she's just never thought about. Lord Thaddeus was just killed in a cutscene by the dragon because he descends. The Drake body is destroyed, and then the dragon's like, you can resurrect him and go on your life, like, essentially give up, or you can fight me. So Lord Thaddeus, which you never once have a confrontation to, he's always just in a cutscene running away, or in a cutscene walking by you.
That's so dissatisfying.
It is a little bit, and even the story, even the side quests were just mostly fetch items. There wasn't really like, help me do this, and it's this big, like Skyrim Thieves Guild kind of thing. It's like, bring me a ripened quince, or I need these books to do things. So it kind of just felt like a game of exploration and combat. There really wasn't any story. But the story that was given wasn't terrible, which is why I get, like, it's a 5 out of 10. Like, it was enjoyable, but the 80 hours of gameplay was mostly me just wanting to explore the world, and because the world was enjoyable to explore. However, which leads me to my next thing. Enemy variation. It's like a solid 3. You fight the same enemies throughout most of the game, and the enemies you find like the first 10, 15 hours are the same enemies throughout the rest of the game. I think towards the end I ended up fighting like 600 goblins, like 400 hobgoblins, and like chopper goblins, and knacker goblins, or I think they're just called knackers. But there really isn't variation. The most variation you get are Saludrins. They're like lizard folk. And you get like normal ones, you get a rocky variation, there's a lightning variation, a blight variation, and then a fire variation. None of them really require you to change tactics. You just destroy them. Boss fights, or what is counted as a boss fight, which are the big monsters, you can all fight them. You can fight all of them in the first area, which is Vermund. You can fight, there's Ogre, there's the, like, Ogre, Troll, then there's, like, the Darkened Ogre, and then there's, like, you can fight a Griffin, you can fight a Manticore, there's a Drake there, actually there's, like, 2 or 3 Drakes in the first area, and then there's, like, kind of harder variations. Oh, there's a Minotaur, and, like, the harder variations are just, like, a blackened Minotaur, which there's no difference other than just having more health and giving you, like, instead of Minotaur horns, it's, like, blackened Minotaur horns, so it's, like, different upgrade. You can fight all of those essentially in the first area. So when you get to the second area, there's no different, like, oh, this is a new boss fight. There's also golems, which you can fight in the first area. There was just essentially no enemy variation, and there was no enemy scaling. There was no, welcome to Backbatal. Here's a whole new set of enemies because it's this deserty, Middle Eastern inspired environment compared to Vermund, which is like medieval, like England. It's the exact same monsters, and you fight less of certain things. Like you fight less trolls, you fight less minotaurs, you fight more like chimeras, griffins, and drakes. But that's not really anything different you haven't fought before. And it was, I don't want to say it was disappointing because the combat was so enjoyable. I never really, not once did I have a moment going, oh, I don't want to fight this again. You're kind of like, thank God, because I'm one-shotting these knackers or hobgoblins, and I've got, whole abilities that let me summon tornadoes, for sorcerers, or let me do these insane, they're called Meister teachings. They're like your one cool ability that's like you have to do a quest for it specifically. And you're like, I need something to do this for. And then you do it, and you're like, wow, a Drake, which is the hardest thing in this game, I can kind of two-shot with some of these Meister teachings, and like you kind of lose a little bit of that challenge.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's suffering from substance.
Yeah.
Like, it's really missing, like, the quality of the product isn't bad.
Is good.
It's the substance of the product.
The way it feels, the way the game feels, and the way combat feels is enjoyable. There just wasn't a story.
Yeah.
And there was hardly any enemy variation. I think some of the game design was also lacking. And there's some interesting game choices that I don't think was thought about.
This feels like the epitome of, like, those, like, funny, quote unquote, like, fine dining memes of, like, oh, it's really good, but it's literally this big.
Yeah, it's delicious. It cost me $300, and it's a quarter size, like, puree spread with, like, a little bean on it.
Like, no one will deny that the quality is not good.
Yeah.
But it's also just...
And I enjoyed playing Dragon's Maw. That's kind of the hardest thing about it is, and like you've explained, I beat the game and I was like, I want more. Obviously I want more. The story was just not there. The environments were so cool. Like going from Vermund and, Vermund is classic medieval, like, style environment. And there's like a little part of Vermund that's like elven forest. So you get to like explore really dense elvish forests. And then you move on to Backbatal, which is Grand Canyon-esque, all orange, beautiful, and then you get to Backbatal itself, and it's this gorgeous, like, full Middle Eastern style, rugs on the ground, merchants, shop owners. But fast travel is it's a thing, but you have to have fairy stones, which are a limited resource. Not that limited. You can kind of get them pretty easily. And I ended the game with 10. I used them liberally.
Yeah.
The issue is the teleportation points, which are the port crystals. In the entire game, there are 2 permanent port crystals. Vermund, and a non-really story element town called Harv Village. Backbatal, the second biggest area, does not have a permanent transportation crystal. In the entire game, from what I know of, and because I explored most of it, you only get access to 3 transportable port crystals, which I had, obviously, one in Backbatal, because the journey through Backbatal is like it's like walking in Skyrim from the Dragon's Roost? No, what's the main area? The first area. Jarl...
With Jarl Balgruuf?
Yeah.
Whiterun.
It's like going from Whiterun to the College of Winterhold. Like, that's the run it takes, and there's no fast travel between them. So I was like, fuck no. So I put a port crystal there. I had one in the Elven Village. There is absolutely no reason to go there unless you just wish to get the Archer Meister teaching, and the end of the quest for the guy gives you a port crystal. There's no story element there. There's no main story progression that's tied to the elven village. Absolutely zero. But I had it there for the longest time because I was like, well, maybe there will be. And then I had the third port crystal, I think, to the dragon merchant, because he lets you upgrade weapons using dragon crystals. But then I eventually moved, I think, the elven one, because also the same amount of walking is done for Backbatal to, like, the volcanic isle. There's not a port crystal there. And so, as much as I enjoyed the, traveling in the environment, I was like, I don't think they thought about it well enough for the use of its transportation.
Well, here's the thing. In open world games like that, they're, like, not always does there need to be, like, a whole bunch of stuff that for the player to do or anything like that. But there needs to be substance for the player.
Yeah.
They're, like, other than just, oh, here's a few goblins you can fight, or here's a shrine, here's the kingdom. Like...
That's really what it felt like, just remove the story.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, in the sense of important sustenance. I mean, a lot of the caves were very fun, and there was a lot of the boss fights that were fun. You'd stumble into certain areas and be like, oh, this is cool, and I want to explore. But it also got me being like, I'm not going to stumble upon, like, a Dark Souls level, like, oh, shit, I've stumbled upon, like, Quaylag's sister. And you're like, whoa, and that's just, like, whole secret area. It's just, there was no, I don't want to say substance, because exploration was fun, but there was no substance to the exploration other than just acquiring of items.
And that's what I mean when it's like, there needs to be, like, I would say Elden Ring is a really good example of a great open world. There is a lot you can do. There's plenty of side quests that bring you all over the place.
Yeah.
You can find these small, like, underground dungeons that are all, like, crypts and get some good upgrade items and fight a fun boss at the end that you usually don't see.
Yeah.
Or, like, there are these wait gates that, like, have another interesting boss that can give you an interesting item or ability.
Yeah.
That Dark Souls kind of feel with Elden Ring is mostly about the combat and everything, but, like, in the same sense, I feel like that's what they were kind of trying to go for with Dragon's Dogma 2, is it's supposed to be about the combat, but yet they didn't have the same type of, interesting areas or explore. Like, they had interesting areas, but they didn't have the same type of, like, oh, here's just a random dungeon, and here's just a random this, and here's just a random that. It's more like, here's, like, the same Drake that you fought, like, 5 times, but this time it's red,
Yeah.
It's
there was no.
No?
Only the lizards got enemy variation. It's the same model for all of them. The most we got was like, here's an ogre. Now here's ogre with like plating, but that's kind of it. The drakes were all the same. The manticores were all the same. The griffins were all the same.
I'm thinking what they need to have done is what Monster Hunter does, which is have it be just a bunch of roaming monsters with its own.
But that's not Dragon's Dogma, though.
Then I don't know what Dragon's Dogma is. Then
it's a very interesting thing, because it's playing the game. It's a very unique style game, which is why I'm like, I don't want it to be a Shadow of the Colossus, Monster Hunter, which is just you fighting bosses. I enjoyed the small enemies.
Well, no, Monster Hunter had plenty of small enemies too.
I just don't want it to be roaming giant monsters, which it is. I mean, a lot of the environment is just you going around exploring, being like, oh shit, there's just an ogre here, or a troll here, or like knowing like a manticore kind of roamed here. I think the biggest thing was just the story and the way they dealt with side quest and story. The main story itself was just lacking. Like, they built it, they polished it, but in a sense there was no I think what was the issue is there's no playability of the main story. That the main story mostly happened in cutscenes. And then when you got to play, it was like, hey, go do go to Har Village and try to fix their problem. Go do this. Go do this. And then you're like, all right, I'm back. Like, let's go fight the coronation. Let's go do the coronation. And it's kind of resolved in a cutscene.
Yeah. Because say what you will about, like, Skyrim.
Yeah.
But Skyrim had plenty of things for you to go explore and do.
Yeah.
And the side quests had substance.
Yeah.
The main quest felt like it should have just been a side quest in a weird way.
Which is usually how I play Skyrim.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how it felt playing this game, was just... I kind of felt like I was just off on my own and would occasionally come back to the main quest and be like, alright, what am I doing? And he's like, you need to go hunt for this. And it's like, oh yeah. Okay, I guess. And then you come back and he's like, alright, that's it. And I will also say, I think the quest marking and the way they updated quest and led you to the next quest was also very lacking. There was a lot of moments where I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? And he's like, that's alright, that's all you've done. Like, you've done everything I've asked. Captain Brant is what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm supposed to apparently get something from you, and you're supposed to start the next main story thing. I've already explored half of Backbatal and been to the capital, and apparently I wasn't supposed to. Because you're supposed to give me the permit that lets me get into here. But you can kind of go like a mountain route and go around it. So there's just a few moments where I was just like, I genuinely don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, because there is no quest marker, and you're kind of like, well, I've talked to everybody, and I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing. Or if they have a quest marker, it's like, do this, and you're like, what is this? But like I said, overall, I think it's a 7 out of 10. I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed playing it. I got 80 hours of it. But I played it mostly for the gameplay, not for the story. And in truth, I couldn't really even tell you much about the actual details of the story. Because a lot of it was just like, what am I doing? Oh yeah, that's that. Okay, I have that. Why do I have this? And then you kind of get back to the main area, and it's like, alright, here's a cutscene of something happening. And you're like, okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Now you want me to travel like all the way over here to do something. It's like, okay, what? But I liked a lot of the game. A lot of it was cool. They had some cool things where, fast travel was mostly done through carts, like Skyrim. Like, imagine if you couldn't pull up your map in fast travel, you had to use the staple carts. That's kind of how it felt.
That's kind of how I play Skyrim anyway.
Which I enjoy. There's, there's Vermund, and then you go to Checkpoint Capital, and then to Backbatal.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can take a cart to the Checkpoint Capital, and then you get to Checkpoint, and it's like, hey, we can't travel to Backbatal because of monster raids, and so you kind of have to naturally explore, and then they open up cart travel.
Yeah.
I just wanted more from the story, and I wanted more from the enemies. And like I said before, there really wasn't a moment where I was like, oh, I'm tired of fighting these enemies. It was more just after I finished the game, I was like, wow, it really was all just the same.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, the ending was kind of shit. It's the ending they build up to be, which is destroy the dragon, become the ruler of the moon. But I was like, there's no epicness to it. Like, you defeat the dragon, and he's like, maybe you'll have the will to change it. And then he dies, and you're like, change what? I thought I was going to get a cool moment of, like, if I kill myself, like, then I could stop the cycle of the dragon returning, picking out an Arisen. But it just cuts to you walking into the throne room. And I was like, well...
Yeah, that sense wrong with me. Which,
I don't know if you could have sat on the throne, because my first thought was, I'm going to walk away and walk back to the doors, and then it hit to, like, actual end credits, and I was like, damn. I don't know if I could have sat on the throne.
So... That's kind of hilarious that they give you a playable sequence that's supposed to lead you up to the throne to where you're supposed to sit, and then you just kind of went...
I turned... Yeah, because I was like, this feels like a Dark Souls moment where you have the possibility of walking away from it, and it gives you, like, a secret ending.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of kept walking, and then it just faded to the end credits, and I was like, oh, okay. And then it's like, would you like to do New Game Plus? Oh, which I have another thing about. New Game Plus is not any different. Difficulty's not upgraded. Health isn't upgraded. Rewards aren't upgraded. So
just blowing up everything then.
Yeah, having 100,000 golds, opening a chest gives me like 100.
What the hell?
XP is the same. Like, I don't even remember choosing a difficulty when I first played my playthrough, but there wasn't like when you do New Game Plus, like it's gonna increase the difficulty and like health. Like every New Game Plus in existence, everything is upgraded because you have all of your abilities, you have all your weapons. Now I'm one-shotting goblins. I'm two-shotting essentially like trolls, orcs, and all that. But yeah, I was like, oh, because I was fully ready to play it again if it had like a classic New Game Plus. Because like, fuck yeah, I would love to play more challenging enemies. I'd love for Drakes to have 14 dots instead of 7. Like, I'd love an actual challenge because at times I can blow through 6 dots at once with the right timed ability. But none of it's changed. It's literally the exact same game. You just have all of your armor, your weapons, all of your vocations unlocked, all of your vocation like upgrades unlocked too. So I was like, damn. Maybe I'll put it on.
That's sad.
A little bit, yeah.
So I'm glad you. Sorry. I'm glad you overall enjoyed the experience. Like, I'm glad you enjoyed the game. Yeah. It's just sad. To me, this is... And it's fine. Not every game has to be a huge hit or anything like that.
Like, I wasn't expecting Elden Ring, I wasn't even expecting this to really be open worlds. Which it is, but... Like, I wasn't knowing Dragon's Dogma and knowing the first one specifically, I knew what I was getting into. And honestly, I was expecting the first game, which was just swaths of areas that have nothing in them. And so getting to this and being like, holy shit, there's not an area you can't turn that doesn't have something cool, whether it's just kind of exploration.
Yeah.
But ending it, coming back and looking at it critically, I was like, it is that, really expensive little portion of fancy food where I was like, where's the rest of the plate? And I can enjoy it being an experience of this fanciness, You don't go to a fancy restaurant expecting to gorge yourself. But there's nothing really there.
Yeah, you still have to go and, like, get, like, a Taco Bell later or
yeah,
something
you're
like
like,
that.
I'm still hungry.
Yeah.
So...
It's like... Wow, this is an amazing experience with all the beautiful cuisine and everything. But that McDonald's burger was just so good.
Yeah. But I overall enjoyed it. I had some gripes, especially quest things, and there are some quest things that really upset me. There's a girl that is supposed to give you the Mage Meister teaching, and her uncle, or her grandma and grandpa don't want to teach her magic, and she kind of in secretly is like, if you bring me 5 grimoires of dark horrible power, and then you do that, you find 6 grimoires, but there's 2 other people that want that too, or there's 1 other person, and when I looked up his quest first, because he's the sorcerer and he gives you the cool the tornado meister teaching, it's the thing of like, make copies, because there's someone in this world that forges things for you, and give him forgeries, because you want to save them for the girl. And I was like, fuck yeah. And so I made the forgeries. I gave him, I think, one of the real ones, because it's like there's 6 in total. I think they only need 3 each. And he got me the cool, and so I got to her story was kind of buggy. She wouldn't talk to me, and then it was like, wait until her grandma walks out of the house. I'm like, she's in the fucking mountains right now. Like, she's not here. And she wouldn't give me the quest. And it's like, if she wouldn't give you the quest, either you can throw the grandpa out, or you can try to carry her and walk her out of the house to trigger the quest. Which ended up working. And then I gave her the quest. And apparently, even if you give her the 3 required grimoires, if you even give her 1 forged grimoire, it locks her story. And she goes, well, one of the grimoires you gave me feels weird. I guess I should just give up. And she just refuses to give up. Or she just gives up. So it locks you out of the Sorcerer Meister teaching, and when you normally complete her, or the mage, she's supposed to study magic. And she's supposed to be like, here's this mage Meister teaching, which is this really cool dome that fucking just heals and stamina regens, and it's a cool thing. And then her grandma's like, wow, you really sparked it. Here's a Sorcerer Meister teaching, which is to summon, meteors, essentially. If you give her a fake one, she goes, I'm giving up, and then you just lose both Meister teachings. And the one achievement, which is to get all Meister teachings in one playthrough, is just immediately locked out. Because you've given her one fake spellbook. And so I had that moment where I was like, are you fucking kidding me? There's nothing saying... there's nothing in the game that tells you that's not...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, are you supposed to give the forgeries to the dude?
If you want to do both of them at the same time, yes. You're supposed to give him the forgeries and keep at least 3 of the original ones. I had 3 of the original ones. I just... Because you can give her up to 5. And so I was like, I'll give her the 3. And, I also wasn't even thinking of, this is the forgery. Because they're all named essentially the same. One is Death's Knock.
Mm-hmm.
Or Death's Knell. And when you make a forgery of it, it's Death's Knock. Or it's slight, it's spelled with, an I instead of an E.
Mm-hmm.
It's slight things. And so I kind of just filled all I had. And then I come back and she's like, it felt weird. I think I should just give up. And I was
what do you mean it felt weird?
I hate you. Because it's a fake grimoire. There's no magic to it. And I was like, you got it. And there's no save. It's not like you can make saves and then reload them. You just have saves. And so that was a moment where I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to finish the game.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm just going to finish it. I didn't get to fight. Generally, I enjoyed it. There's just some things that really frustrated me. I didn't get to meet the Sphinx. I had apparently one area in the entire fucking map that I did not explore. And that was where the Sphinx was.
Ugh.
And I also didn't get to fight any Medusas, even though a few of my weapons required Medusa bones. Don't know where you find a Medusa, because the one area I didn't explore was like, hey, this is where the Sphinx is.
I don't know.
And I was like, oh my god. No. But I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I got 80 hours out of it, which is more than I usually get out of that game.
Yeah.
And other than those very, very few small moments with, the girl and, some other things that had me frustrated, most of it was clean sailing. There were some cool areas, there were some interesting things to get through.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Alright.
Dragon's Dogma. You know what it kind of felt like? I feel like Darksiders 3.
Ooh.
Which was, fun to play,
Mm-hmm.
but you're like, this isn't Darksiders. This isn't, the story's kind of weird. There's really not even a story to begin with, other than you just fighting the 7 deadly sins. It was just, you kind of were just doing it for the gameplay.
Yeah.
So.
Well.
But it's a unique experience. Dragon's Dogma, I will say, is like no other game I've played before.
Mm-hmm.
The way it goes about things, the way inventory is dealt with, and the environment that the game makes is a very unique environment. And I enjoyed it. It was just very interesting. To be
right.
You know what? We'll see if I come back.
Mm-hmm. Nah, that's fair.
I'm also upset because there's seeker tokens,
Mm-hmm.
which there are 240 of them. And I felt like I explored. I mean, like I said before, I only had one area of the map unexplored, and the most I got was 90. So I'm like, I don't know if it's a new, you can only do it with new game. But I started a new game playthrough, and there's a couple of spots I was like, I thought there was a secret token here, and I didn't get any.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, do secret tokens just not respawn? And you can only find the ones you missed, which in that point, I didn't even know how I'm going to be able to find another 150.
I have no idea, because freaking... I hate that, open world video games have started doing that, where it's just here's a collectible that has so much!
Yeah.
It's okay, cool, but
And these are abundant. It's not like some other open worlds, the first thing I come to think of is like Assassin's Creed and like the White Feathers, which are like really difficult. These are abundant, and you can usually find at times like 3 or 4 in a certain area, and you get used to knowing kind of where they are placed. But I was like, because I found 90 of them. But I was like, I don't know how I'm supposed to find 240, and the 240th reward is shitty because it
usually is.
Yeah, it's a ring that speeds up your progression in vocations. I, finishing the game, only had 3 vocations I had not maxed. So I was like, by the time I get there, it will be useless. So, anyways, I've enjoyed the game, but I think I will just leave it there for a couple of years.
That's fair.
Because it's one of those games where I've played it. So unless I spend a couple years forgetting it, nothing's really changing in the next playthrough.
Fully get it.
It's not getting any more difficult. Story's not changing.
Fully get it.
I'd like to see the other ending which you resurrect the Lord Thaddeus and see what that looks like. But I honestly don't have a desire to kind of run through it again. So, on a smaller note, before I hand it back off to you, because I won't talk about it much either, because I've just started it. I have started Alien Isolation.
Oh!
I love sci-fi. I love Alien. I'm not really a horror fan, nor really that kind of style of gameplay, but I was like, I really want to play it just because it's, in my eyes, the only source of media of aliens that feels like the actual movies. Aliens vs. Predator, the old game, Alien Colonial Marines, Alien blah, doesn't ever really feel like an Alien game other than just being like, it's a xenomorph. So I started playing it. I think I'm on chapter 5. I'm stuck once again. It's kind of a fucking, I feel like I'm crawling out of a barrel right now because it's a crescent shape, and you're at the end of the crescent, and the monster spawns right there. So you kind of just have to like there's no way around. You just have to go around in a circle, but he's right next to you. So I've consistently failed because it's like, well, if I walk out the room, I can see him, and he's in the direction I need to go. When I start going that way, he starts walking my direction, so I walk back and I hide. It's like, well, okay. But I've enjoyed it. Not really scary.
Really?
Because most of it's when I played Dishonored. It's like you're crouch walking everywhere, and he's not jump scaring you because you can hear him run, or you can hear him walk, and so you're like, well, I'm kind of stuck in a corner. I can hear him walking, and I can hear him running towards me, so that's kind of it. The jump scares are what's obviously the most scary part right now, where you're like, you're walking and an android grabs your leg, and you're like, ah! But like the actual alien part, I think it's just because he's a one-shot that there's no fear, because I haven't gotten the flamethrower yet. So I can't fight him off. So it's just one of those things of like, well, if he kills me, then I just have to redo this whole section again. And then after like the 4th time, it's like, this isn't really scary. I'm just kind of having to just go through it.
Yeah, that's the thing that's usually talked about with horror games, is if you continuously die, the fear factor just goes away. And it
especially when it's the one shot. If he touches you, you're dead. And so there can only be... the most I'm feeling is my heart rate increasing because I don't want to have to redo the section again.
Yeah. And
I'm so close to the ending and I don't know how it works. I don't know how... because there are some chapters where the alien AI is scripted. Like, hey, he's going to pounce on you and then he runs away. Or if you hit to this point, he stops chasing you. Obviously, I don't know any of that, so I'm just... The most intense I'm feeling is just, I don't want to redo this after the 6th time. Let me just kind of... I'm stressing out to get to this part that I know will end it.
Yeah, I kind of wish that it had a 3-hit system. Because that at least makes it to where, if you get away from it, you're still hurt.
Yeah.
And then you have a limited source of healing items, which then it's like, oh, okay, I don't want to die, I don't want to die, I don't want to die. That increases the stress factor, increases the fear, and there's less times where you're dying, which ruins the horror aspect and, disillusions, oh, I'm in a game,
Because the most I feel stressed out on are the AI. Not replicants, that's Blade Runner.
The...
Oh my god.
Androids. Just androids.
Are they just androids? Because that is the... Like, when they grab you, it's not death. It's the, they're beating you and you're having to mash and then they let go of you. That's the moment I feel terrified where I'm like, fuck, I've got to run, I've got to hide. I can't really fight them. You can, you can kill them. But right now, at least early on, you don't have things that let you do that. Like, you don't get the stun baton until, like, chapter 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And so it's like, those are the moments I'm scared because it's not insta-kill. And I know I can... If I get out of it, I can go into a vent, make my way around, try to stealth past it. Mm-hmm. Once the alien pops, it's just kind of my brain immediately just goes to, well, I'm most likely going to die because I don't know the map. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm already lost, and this thing is chasing me. So I'm lost, and I'm going to die. So then I just have to redo this over 4 or 5 more times. Mm-hmm. So I'm just in a part right now where I've had to redo it like 12. Because I got to the end, and you open up the door, and apparently he spawns right on top of the door. It's like, you literally open it, and there's a vent right there. And there's a body in front of you that's, like, leaning down. And so I started walking to the body, and he just falls, and it's just a spear through my chest. And so I was like, well, and it reset me. So I had to do the whole section again, and I'd yet to come back that far. So... I'm enjoying the game. I think I'm just getting a little frustrated right now with games just feeling like a chore.
Yeah.
Instead of just enjoying to play them.
Mm-hmm. I get that. To kind of go off of that into the game I have been playing, was playing when I was recovering, Bloodborne.
Ugh.
I have been...
Another classic example.
So I never sat down and actually played through all of Bloodborne. Because I've always gotten a little frustrated with the game.
Yeah.
And there are points where I get frustrated. I stop playing for a little while. I get distracted doing something else.
Yeah.
Come back to it, and I'm like, I might as well just make a new character because I don't even know where I'm at.
Yeah.
But I had all the free time and nothing else to do. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to sit down.
Beat it?
I'm going to get through this. I did not beat it yet, but I am very close. All I need to do is talk to Gurman, and I've eaten all the umbilical cords, so I can fight the moon presence.
Oh, okay.
So all I need to do is talk to Gurman and fight him in the moon presence.
Okay, yeah, you're essentially there.
I'm essentially there. I haven't done, like, all the side stuff yet, but, I just got to go talk to Gurman.
The only thing I think... In my eyes, there's a lot of side areas that are fun. Mm-hmm. You can do the Amygdala fight if you haven't done that already.
I have not.
I don't like the area because I feel like it's just kind of confusing and a little mediocre. But the boss fight's wonderful. But I'm trying to think of like side areas. Mm-hmm. There's the Upper Cathedral Ward. That is an area that is so beautiful because you really get to. That's like the heart of the cosmic horror.
Yeah.
Because you fight N.E.R.D.S and all that. Have you done the DLC?
I have not done the DLC yet.
Okay.
I plan on doing that.
If you fight Gehrman, you cannot do the DLC.
Okay.
I say you have to do the DLC before you end the game. Because then you just move to New Game Plus, and then you have to go through all the way up until you hit... at that point, all the DLC boss fights are a New Game, which they're the hardest boss fights throughout anything. So... Yeah. Before you do Gehrman, you have to do the DLC.
I will, because I want Ludwig's Holy Blade. Mm-hmm. I want that great sword.
Ludwig, he is truly a gatekeeper of the DLC. He's the first boss you fight, and he is one of the hardest.
I'm very excited. There are definitely points where I have gotten very frustrated with that game.
Yeah.
I will say Bloodborne is probably the meanest Souls-like I've played. Other than probably Dark Souls 2, but Dark Souls 2 was intentionally mean. Bloodborne has some just very frustrating points in it.
Which is surprising you say Dark Souls 2 is the meanest, because I breezed through that game really without any struggle.
Dark Souls 2 had a lot of cheap shots that got me.
Interesting.
There was a lot of, I'm just trapped here now, or,
Yeah, because okay. I guess if that's what we're talking about. There's a few moments where it's like, open up the store and you're petrified, but In a sense, but yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
That's me with Sekiro. I think Sekiro is the most punishing and
Okay, no, that's fair. Because Sekiro is weird because I don't even know if I want to count it within the Soulsborne, like, well, not at least the, like, it's not a Dark Souls.
Yeah.
You know? Bloodborne is much more of a Dark Souls than Sekiro is.
Yeah.
Sekiro to me feels more like a rhythm hack and slash.
It's a very different genre, but it has the Soulsborne core of the exploration and the story. Sure. But it really is. It's like Bloodborne is close enough to Dark Souls to be like, oh no, they're very similar games. It also looks similar.
Yeah.
Like even Elden Ring models. Yeah, it looks similar. Sekiro is just really different.
Sekiro is incredibly different. So it's hard for me to like add Sekiro into that bunch because Sekiro just feels so much like its own thing.
Yeah.
Which, don't get me wrong, I also still really like Sekiro even though I haven't finished it. It's a good game. It's just not for me.
I enjoy the story.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy the gameplay.
See, that's where I'm at of like, I do enjoy the gameplay. It's just it just gets to a point where I don't want to fight the same boss again.
Yeah.
And that's always kind of how I felt with Bloodborne. Is just like, I really don't want to fight this boss again. So I'm just not going to do it.
What bosses have given you trouble?
Specifically, there wasn't a boss, but there was an area that every time I went there, I was just not happy with. Every time I went there, I was just not happy with it, and it usually made me set down the game. The area where there's the Gatling gun, the guy on the tower,
Old Yarnum.
Old Yarnum. I hate that area.
Interesting.
Like, no other area frustrates me more than Old Yarnum.
Weird.
Well, because for me specifically, they don't, to me, choreograph the shortcut well enough. So there's so many times where I'm just trying to make my way through, and I have all these echoes, and then something happens and I just die.
Yeah, but that's just kind of Dark Souls and shit. There's a lot of boss fights I fought where I didn't know there was a shortcut, or there are just, I will say, in the genre itself, some boss fights where they really didn't think about the shortcut.
For sure. But I've had, I've had those moments before, but to me, anytime that I have to go through an area over and over and over and over again, and sometimes I don't even make it to the boss, it just wears me down to a point where I'm like, I'm tired of beating my head against this wall, and that usually is the area where I am like, nah, I'm good. It's not even Bloodstarved Beast. The Bloodstarved Beast, not that hard of a fight.
It's pretty easy.
It's a pretty easy fight.
You know, if you can just throw a blood punch cocktail.
Yeah.
It's interesting you think that, about that, because for me, Old Yarnum just feels like, you know, if you're in a house, it just feels like a side, like a closet. You know, you kind of go in there for a little bit. It takes me probably like 2-3 hours to get through, and then I'm out.
Well, I never knew that wasn't really... Here's the thing. I didn't know Old Yarnum was an optional place. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So that's always where I go after I get to the cathedral.
Yeah.
Because I don't know anywhere else I'm supposed to go. So I just go to Old Yarnum and then get my dick beaten down. And then I do beat the Bloodstarved Beast. And then I'm like, where the fuck do I go from here?
Well, because what it's supposed to be is... It is optional technically, but what the game wants you to do is... When you get to Odin's chapel, you're supposed to go to Old Yarnum because the gate is locked for is it the Cathedral World where Vicar Amelia is? That area is locked off, and so you're like, how am I supposed to get there? And either you go through Old Yarnum or you buy the key, but Old Yarnum is supposed to get you to the Bloodstarved, and then you're supposed to go up and, you know, fall down the tower, and that leads you into, I know, Central Yarnum, I think is what it's called. Like, there's that small area of Yarnum.
Yeah, I know.
And that gets you behind the gate.
It's a tower that you go, like, I went up to the tower first, and then I went down.
and then it leads you to a very small area that's something Yarnum.
Yeah. And then I got in love with Holy Blade, and I found the game so much better after I got that.
Which is very interesting because I watched Jacksepticeye play that game, and he shits on strength-based weapons, which is interesting.
He does. He doesn't like them.
Because when my last playthrough, I played dex-based, and I cannot stand dex-based weapons. Only the Blade of Mercy and Gurman's like scythe weapons I enjoy. Otherwise, I just love the stagger rate out of those, Kirk Hammer, Ludwig Holy Sword.
I didn't like the Kirk Hammer as much. I used it a good amount until I got Ludwig's Holy Blade, and I was like, this is exactly what I like using in these types of games. Give me a big-ass great sword that I can just swing and hit multiple enemies with and stagger a bunch. Perfect for me. That is my type of game style.
But to say, because you mentioned it, Dark Souls 1 Sith was that for me.
Sith Ascalus?
Just his run was fucking... Not the first time you meet him, because it's obviously pretty quick, but the run down to his boss fight and all through those crabs. And what was the wolf cart called?
Wolf cart.
Is that Sith? What's the
No, Seath the
Scalus.
Seath the Scalus and then Sith the Wolf.
Sith the Wolf.
Yeah.
Both of those, fuck them. Because it was one of those things where, like kind of Bloodborne, you can buy the key for what doesn't seem like a lot of money, 10,000. But you're fully not supposed to be there yet. And so I thought I could not defeat the wolf, and his run is the same where there is no shortcut. So you're running all the way there, and you cross the bridge, and you go all the way there, and then you go down all the way over. There's just some runs to boss fights that just, regardless of how fun the fight is, or how cool the enemy is, just suck.
Oh, yeah. And to me, that was Old Yarnum.
Yeah.
That run kills me. Because especially since the guy is, like, shooting you down the entire time, which isn't that bad. But I still want to get rid of him just so I can go through it at my pace, And then every time I went up to that goddamn tower to try to fight him, he'd kill my ass.
You know the little cheese for him?
I didn't know it until I beat him.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just go up there and shoot him in a bunch and then...
Like all of those games, once you understand the game, I will always say Soulsborne games, to me, are much more enjoyable second playthrough. Where I'm not sitting here going, what am I supposed to be doing? Where am I going? I don't understand these enemies.
See, Dark Souls 3, I never had a problem with that. To me, that was, like, I got through that game easily with little to no frustration. Like, yeah, I had a few bosses that, like, took me down and a few times where I just died. But, like, for me, the level design was just good enough, and the bosses were good enough, and the gameplay was good enough to where I was just like, this is easy. I can do this.
Dark Souls 3 just felt too linear for me. There's a lot of bonfires.
There's a lot of bonfires.
And it doesn't really feel like you have to explore much, because it's kind of just like, hey, you're in a hallway, walk straight, there's a bonfire at the end of the hallway. And then it kind of kind of leads you to the next area, and I don't remember, other than getting to the Profane Capital, that's the only place I remember kind of getting confused at.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was just kind of boom to boom to boom. But
Dark Souls 3 is a lot about verticality when it comes to this exploration than it is about, like, straight line through.
Yeah.
Bloodborne, I have really enjoyed Bloodborne. Don't get me wrong. I have, like... Am I going to say it's up, like, one of my top Souls games? No. The environments are really cool. The bosses are really interesting. And the enemy variation is good. There's just a few things that I don't like that I do not like that I think other games do better. One of them being a constant thing that withheld my progress each time is blood vials.
Yeah.
I get why they did it, but I do not like having to grind for those stupid blood vials.
Yeah. It's why it's not shown in any other game. Because it's...
Well, it was shown in Demon Souls. That was the only other one that they did.
Demon Souls did anything before any other thing.
Yeah, no.
Bloodborne, I think, tried to go back to what Demon Souls was and said, hey, what if we try this again? Because I mean, since Demon's Souls, no other game had done a non-replenishable healing item.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been the Estus flasks. So Bloodborne, I think, was what happens if we go back and do it again, and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
I think it's because it limits you.
Mm-hmm.
I think what Demon's Souls was so successful about was you could have 99 of each, essentially. And Bloodborne was like, you get 20.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the hard part where you're like, if you're going to limit me on healing, or if you're going to make my healing non-replenishable, don't limit me on my healing.
Yes. And that's the thing that I had a very hard struggle with, was sometimes I would just have to go back to the first area.
Yeah.
Because for whatever reason, enemies are just so stingy later on after that first area about dropping blood vials.
Absolutely.
They are so stingy about it. So I kept having to go back to that first area, and I would do a whole run of the entire first area, which was easy. It was like a breeze. Get a bunch of blood vials, and then whatever souls I got from those blood vials, I would go back and buy a bunch more from this merchant, then do it on repeat a couple more times. Yeah. So that I just didn't have to worry about it for a while. And that was the only real way that made blood vials like good to me. And then, yeah, I get it. Get good, get better at the game, don't die as much.
It's not even that. It's just, I think they just tried something.
They tried something, and to me, it didn't feel like it worked.
It's just not quite as good.
Because I get it for the bullets. The bullets make a lot of sense. Because then you can do the thing where you can get blood bullets.
Yeah.
That's fine. And I feel like they should have done that with the blood vials, where you get at least 5.
I forget that's what Demon's Souls does, because you still get Estus in Demon's Souls, but it's only like 3 or 4. Like, it's such a little amount, and then you mostly use grass. Yeah. But there's still that little bit of replenishable healing. Yeah. Which, do you want to know why? I won't say conceptually, but conceptually why you get less blood vials? Other than just classic game design. The further you get into the game, the harder it is. Because further game you get, the less you get with the Healing Church. The more you delve into Bergenworth and its scholars, right? So the less blood there is in general.
And that makes sense. Lore-wise, it makes total sense. It just was frustrating whenever, like, I'm so close to getting to this boss, and now I'm just out of blood vials, so I don't want to tackle it right now. You know, so...
Oh yeah, I don't like blood vials. Even though Bloodborne's my favorite game, the fact that blood vials don't level up, so you're spending 2 to 3 towards late game just to heal yourself, and you only get 20.
That's another thing. Freaking health. I've put a good amount of souls into upgrading my health, and it felt like it has done nothing.
Yes, but also I know Dark Souls does that too, because yes, they increase your health to being the whole screen, but enemies still take 1 hit to drain that health. Yeah. I just feel like it is... They just, I think, went a different aesthetic with it instead of, hey, here's your whole screen worth of a health bar, and yet a boss can still almost one-shot you.
Right, but even, like, the lesser enemies, like, that are, like, that I should be easily get are still fucking my health up. Yeah. Like... And that doesn't feel good, you know? Like, yes, you're a hunter. You're supposed to be agile. You're not supposed to be getting hit as often. Like, you know, in Dark Souls, you have a shield so you can just tank things. Or have your armor so you can just tank things. No, you're a hunter. You're in, like, a leather jacket and you're, like, dodging around. I get that. Stamina also doesn't seem like it does much when you upgrade it. I put a fair amount of points into stamina, and it has not changed me doing 3 swings with that freaking greatsword. Yeah. Like, I should be able to do more swings with my weapon, dodge more, when I put points into stamina. Yeah. And I feel like I have not gotten that, even when I have, like, gone to, like, 30 points into it. Yeah. And that's frustrating, because... I want to be able to use more of the combos that it automatically wants me to do with the whole switching to weapons and stuff. Yeah. I want to be able to do that. But when I don't have the stamina for it, and it doesn't feel like the stamina is going up for it, then just my my experience with the game is just 1, 2, 3, dodge, stand back. 1, 2, 3, dodge, stand back. You know.
Yeah.
And that's fun to an extent, but that's not what I can just feel. That's not how the game was intended.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Again, I am enjoying the game. Don't get me wrong. There are just little nitpicks that I have that make it to where it's not like my top Souls game.
Yeah.
I even say Liza P does it better than Bloodborne does in a way.
Does what better?
The level progression. Not level progression. The feel of you feel like you're getting stronger. Because they also have a system of like limited healing.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't do blood vials. Instead, they have these like charges that when you run out of, you can do a certain amount of attacks on them, and then you get one back. You have to be aggressive to get it.
Yeah.
So to me, Liza P feels more like I'm progressing strength wise than Bloodborne does. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
The only strength wise I feel is damage. Damage I can do pretty well now, but it still is like 1, 2, 3, back up.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah.
I get it.
That's just my experience with the game so far. I'm still having a lot of fun exploring the world. The world design is top fucking notch.
Mm-hmm.
The level design, I love that fucking level design. Like everything that is good about Bloodborne is so phenomenally good.
Yeah.
I just have a hard time with those little things.
Yeah.
So that's just me.
Which I get.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's why Jack doesn't like strength-based weapons, is it does get to that point where it's just 1, 2, 3 dodge.
Yeah.
You know, with dex-based weapons, you're going in, out, kind of like how I guess it's supposed to feel.
Like Sekiro, the game changes the way you're supposed to play. It is built on quick little stabs and noshes. They add the whole rally system, so when you get hit, you don't immediately lose health.
Which I love the rally system.
Yeah,
rally system is good.
You're supposed to get back in there, attack your attacker to regain some health.
Mm-hmm.
It is supposed to be this like ebb and flow of things, and strength doesn't really naturally benefit that type of system. But I mean, that's just kind of how the game is. It's kind of like Sekiro. You're supposed to sit and wait. You're not supposed to just be button spamming attacks, because you have to kind of sit, wait, parry, and then when you get the openings, attack. But yeah, very different feel. Yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying it.
I am. I'm excited to get it done, just so I can kind of scratch it off my Souls game list. Because I have beaten 1, I've beaten 3, I haven't beaten 2 yet, but that's. I've gotten a good ways through 2, but it's just the feel is just off to me. I just need Bloodborne and I need a Sekiro.
The only one I need is Demon Souls, and I can't play Demon Souls because I'm not going to get a PS5, and I kind of really won't subject myself to the old one.
Could emulate it.
Yeah, I just don't care enough about that.
That's fair.
Yeah, Demon Souls is the only one I haven't completed.
That's very fair.
I've done 1, 2, 3, Bloodborne, Sekiro.
But other than Bloodborne, which is, don't get me wrong, it's been fun. It's been very fun.
Those games I will just find are always frustrating. Regardless. You know, the first time I ever played Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 3, even 2, I hated that game. I hate each one of them until I get that second playthrough, and I'm like, okay, I understand how combat works. I understand where things are, so I'm not just wandering lost. I kind of hate always playing them, and then I get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm kind of good at it. I know where things are. I can kind of enjoy it a bit more.
But other than that, the other thing that I have been doing, which we have talked a good amount about, has been working on my N.E.R.D.S system.
Yeah.
Which has been super fun, and I've been super happy to just work on it. I've gotten a lot done with it. I have a full character sheet made. Probably need to tweak some stuff, like we've talked about. But, it's made. I am still figuring out some things in the system. I kind of forgot about initiative. And was like, I kind of need to figure that out, but I don't think that'll be hard.
I just would make it
a dice roll plus agility. This is kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I just kind of hate when things are based off of that.
That's fair. I just don't know any other way to do it.
Because then it just kind of like makes everything want to go agility based.
That's why armor is so separate from agility. Like armor and agility do not touch each other.
You could just do it in a way where it's just a flat roll, or like Deadlands, which is just, there is no modifiers, it's just roll me 2d6.
That's true.
Because, yes, I understand agility, that's always the argument of, well, if you're quickly dexterity based, then you should be able to act first. But my argument is, well, dexterity isn't always determining who reacts to it first, it's who can move first, but the spellcaster getting lucky and rolling a high initiative, even though they don't have a good dex, realizing that, their brain is initiating combat first, not because they're so speedy quick that they can do everything before everyone else.
No, that's fair. You know what? I might just do it like that. My only fear is just people getting a lot of the same number.
You only have 12 numbers.
Yeah.
You're not really working with too much.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, and I mean, if you add agility, it only adds 6, so it's like 2 through 18 compared to 2 through 12. But, I don't know, I would like to see it played without agility and just rolling first. Also, if they have the same number, no better time to try to combo things. To be like, hey, we're all 3 on 7s. We should all try to combo something because we're all kind of on the same initiative.
That's a good idea.
It's more willing to be, oh shit, we're all kind of clumped. Okay, 2 people rolled 9s. That's great. You guys kind of can work together.
Ooh. Maybe I can do some interesting ability stuff to where you can do combos with them.
Yeah?
That'd be interesting. I don't know. I'll think about it.
Which we should be.
Yes,
play testing.
We should
this
be
Thursday.
We should be play testing this Thursday. I do have at least the what is it? The weapon. I have the light melee weapons charted out. I just now need to get the rest of the weapons, and I need to get armor to chart it out. But we've talked about how experience is going to work. How we're going to times it and everything and see how that goes. And then, what am I doing?
I still think we need to drop skills. Oh, for the viewers, I built a character.
Yes.
Lukas sent me the character sheet. I spent some time doing some fun functions on Excel and getting things But I built a character. I built a agility mind-based character, essentially a tech scrapper who is used to climbing buildings. I mean, I have a 4 climb, which is kind of fun. Like climbing skyscrapers and destroyed buildings, scavenging tech, knowing how to use tech, but is also a, firearms, kind of far away ranged scout.
Yeah.
And is also kind of charismatic. So, but I think we need to drop it because looking at my character sheet, I have 6 skills that are 6. So there's no room to improve those things.
Well, we need to rework it because we now have it with the experience stuff of you put points equal to like the number times 2.
That's for leveling up, not for creating a character. Because otherwise I'm going to need like 300.
Yeah.
Leveling up should be based on just here's number of skills, like skill points. You make your range, and then when you want to level up, it's XP times a certain number to make it. That's how Cyberpunk does it.
No, that's fair. How many 1s do you have in the skills though?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10, but 4 of those 10 are in refracting, which you already kind of have built to be you're not really supposed to do everything.
Yeah.
Because I built my character sheet to a point where I felt comfortable, and I had 15 skill points left.
Mm-hmm.
And I had that point because building my character, I was like you should do normally, my highest stats were 4. I was like, okay, I want a 4 in stealth, I want a 4 in lockpicking, a 4 in balance. Like, that's kind of where I limited myself. And then the 1s I had purposefully in certain things because I was like, I only have a 2 in might. Could theoretically put a bunch of points into might, but I want my skill mights to be low. And I had a moment where I was like, well, I feel like I'm done, yet I still have 15. So then I put them all into the 1s, and I was like, well, that feels wrong to have no 1s. And then I started putting in stuff into 6, and I'm like, now I just feel like I've got no room for improving things, specifically agility.
Yeah.
Other than improving things I wouldn't naturally want to improve, like pickpocketing or like light melee. Like, that's not really what I was... Like, if that's what I have to resort to upgrading, maybe?
That's fair. Maybe we can do...
I think 70 feels good, because I was sitting at 75 when I felt like I was comfortable with where my character sheet was.
Okay.
70 I think would be okay. It might give you a few more 1s and less 6s.
But I think that's fine, because...
You just might have to understand, like, I also don't remember DVs. Like, I think that's maybe something where you think about, like, hey, because we're early on, I'm probably going to have to call for much lower... Well, because you're just kind of doing pass or fail, aren't you?
Basically. Because the whole idea is you take the skill, and then you take the stat, you add those together, and that is your DV, and you're trying to roll below that.
Yeah. Which is just kind of hard then, because I know I've talked about this before, but statistically on 2d6, you will roll 6, 7, 8 the most amount of times. Which means it's going to be really difficult in probability to make a lot of the rolls unless you're really high maxed in them. Because, I mean, call for a single skill. Any of them.
Make me a... Let's see. Make me a mind computer.
There's no computer.
There's no computer.
There's tech repair, weapon, armor repair, hacking, machina hacking. Is that what you're thinking?
Machina. Machina hacking. Yeah.
So that is 6, which is the low end of probability. And I have a 5 in mind. So that's my one fear when playing this game is that, unfortunately, probability is against us. It's different when it's a d20, because then it's 1 in 20 for any of the numbers. This is a statistic. When you've got 2 dice that are only 1 to 6, you're going to roll a certain average in those numbers a certain amount of times, and it happens to be just like 6, 7, 8 are rolled the most amount of times. And so we'll see, but I think that's going to be the big play test.
Yeah, because funnily enough, while it is the average, I've played Catan games where we never landed on those goddamn things, and we played for 3 hours.
Yeah.
You know, like, while it is statistically the most likely, that doesn't mean that it's always going to be the case.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it plays out. I think it should be fine. But again, we'll see.
Yeah. Because right now, there's a lot of skills aren't guaranteed successes. Unless, what was it? I think you said 12 was, or like, yeah, because we don't have any automatic failures. Unless you're doing snake eyes. Or no, I guess it would be double 6s would be the worst.
Yeah, that is your automatic failure.
Which at that point, why ever upgrade anything to 6?
Because that still leaves a huge margin for you to be able to succeed in whatever you're doing.
I mean, if I have a 6 and a 6 for 2 things, and it's... I mean, the difference between... If double 6s are automatically failure, then the only thing I will never ever need to roll is 2 through 11.
Well, it's the same as like critical fails and critical successes. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, but none of those systems let you upgrade that. Like a critical fail in D&D, you can't. Like if you roll a nat 1, you're not upgrading anything to change that probability. This system is you're changing your DV based on what you upgrade.
Yeah, but if you still roll a double 6, that's still a critical fail. It's like, so the probability changing is basically you're making it, you're doing a modifier, if that makes any sense. Because there are skills in D&D where you have a modifier of like plus like 18 in this if you do it correctly, and then you're always succeeding the DV because like. Unless the DM is like, everything is 30 now. Yeah. It's like, then you're always succeeding the DV. Cyberpunk is kind of the same way with certain skills.
But those skills are adding on to the roll. They are not limiting what the roll can be.
Mm-hmm. And that's where the DM can do stuff where it's like, all right, this skill I imagine is going to be a very hard like skill to succeed on. I'm going to give you a -3 to this roll.
Which, I don't know, it's very difficult because it's such a small margin of numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So you essentially just, I can see D&D where it's like take disadvantage because, you've got a D20 plus any number of range.
For sure. Again, it's a different system. It's a different way to play, so we just gotta... And that's why we got to play test it to figure out if it does feel good.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't, then I need to rework it.
Yeah.
That's why we're play testing it on Thursday.
Yeah.
So, which I need to at least get a couple of skills and some firearms stuff right now.
I don't really need weapons. I know you kind of want to deal with combat.
I want at least a combat just to get a feel for it. But mostly we just need to roll for the stats.
We just need to roll stats, and we need to like get into the world to see how it feels. Because there are going to be things where you as a DM won't think about the questions asked until someone asks them, and you're like, oh shit. So
for sure. So it's going to be it's going to be a test run just to see how the stats go. I do agree we should probably lessen the amount of points. So let's rework the points to like 70.
Yeah.
See how that feels, and then go from there. And then we'll, I just might not do a combat, and we might just do like a small like session of just like we're gonna do stat rolling and see how that feels.
Yeah, you set up a little environment that I can explore. You can call for checks for certain base things.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gundraya has been fun because I've been thinking about it because I got to build a character for it.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's going to be a lot of trial and error. But we have a actual character sheet with actual stats, and that's way more progress than has been for a while. So like the fact that we actually have it, and thank God for my mom showing me how Excel works and all that stuff, because I had no idea how I was going to make character sheets. Or any of that. I was like, okay, I guess I'm just going to literally take my sketch paper and just draw it out, which I did.
Yeah.
But I was like, but I don't know how to add the rest of the stuff. Excel makes that so much easier.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes it so much prettier and just more legible. So, we'll try it out and we'll see how it goes. It should be fine, I'm thinking. We'll just see.
Yeah. I mean, we just simply just have to try it because we might do it, we might love it, we might hate it.
And if we don't like it, I'll figure out what we don't like about it and change it up.
Yeah.
Because maybe 2d6 is just not what the system is. Maybe that's it.
Or at least 2d6 making DV. Because we've talked about this before, even though I kind of said I don't think I would enjoy it, but rolling 2d6 and adding the modifier, we've talked about.
I just don't want it to be D&D-esque.
But that's not D&D. That's any.
That's fair.
Most systems are a roll this and add your modifier. Very few systems I know of make a DV based on your stats, which is how Dune does it, which is kind of what we're basing this off of.
That is true.
I mean, Cyberpunk, Call of Cthulhu is a very, very different type of system. It does something truly unique. But there's a lot of things I didn't like about playing it.
Mm-hmm.
But like Cyberpunk, D&D, both do it.
Yeah. I mean, we're just gonna have to see if it feels again. Maybe it's just not a 2d6 system. Maybe it is a d20 system. Yeah. And if it is a d20 system, then we'll figure that out.
Could also be like Vampire, which could be this is the number of dice you're rolling, which is kind of fun.
With successes and failures. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't know how we can do combat that way, but we'll figure that out. I could figure out how we could do combat that way. That'd be easy, actually.
Combat will probably do it like normally, which is you always have the chance to dodge. Mm-hmm. Or fight back. There's so many.
There are ways to do it, which I already have an agility evade skill.
Yeah,
that's a thing because while you can have armor help with a lot of that stuff, which armor is going to have a requirement of might,
which is smart.
You're going to need a certain requirement of might to be able to wear certain types of armor. Because if you don't have that, and if you're more of an agility based person, you're not going to be able to wear higher levels of armor.
Yeah.
And you can wear lower levels of armor if you're high might and low agility, but you might not be able to evade much, and that armor's going to go by quick. So,
which armor should have a modifier to it that gives a negative bonus to evade. Instead of just you can't evade, it should just be if you're wearing full plate armor.
It was never going to be you can't evade.
Yeah. Well, harder to evade is a very loose term, but I think it'd be cool if you're wearing full metal scrap armor, you're going to take a -6 to evade.
Mm-hmm. Which is going to be the idea of how I'm going to mess with skills and stuff more than just you have an advantage and disadvantage. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a lot of all right, you get a +3 to this or a -3 to your DV for this,
Yeah.
To make the DVs harder or easier depending on the skill and what you do,
Yeah.
If you come up with a creative way that makes the problem just so much easier to handle, you're getting a +3. Hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
And a +3 makes the DV higher, which in turn makes the whole thing to where you can succeed easier. Because that's how it's going to affect the DVs.
So are you getting a +3 to rolling or a +3 to the DV?
To DV.
Because the DV doesn't make it higher. Because if... Oh, so you're saying my mind in Machina hacking would be a 6, so it would be a 9?
Yeah.
So then I roll 2d6 and now it's
now you roll below 9. Then
okay.
You succeed. That's the idea.
Okay.
And then if you subtract from the DV, it makes it harder.
Okay.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to affect skills a lot. Is
interesting.
Through that kind of idea. Or at least that's how I'm going to try it out at first and see how that works. Because I agree, it's always going to be it's just stagnant when it gets to that 1 through 6. That's where the DM themselves can be well, no, this is a hard thing you're doing. You have this enemy on you, and you're trying to lockpick. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we have played systems where the DM doesn't really have control based on rolling. Mm-hmm. Call of Cthulhu was a great example of I could theoretically call for hard or extreme successes, but I don't get to really determine any of that. And so I'm just once you guys roll, I have no control of making things any different. Mm-hmm. And in a sense, that's kind of what I like about, Vampire Masquerade and Dune. I get to determine that stuff. In D&D, kind of, but at a certain point, it doesn't really feel like it matters much. A 13 compared to a 17. But there has to be an element for the DM to change it that's more than just modifiers. Because if you're consistently modifying our rolls, then it feels like you're stepping too far into our seats.
And that's where I'm do I still keep advantage and disadvantage on that as well? Mm-hmm. Because, I could be, but then can I add or subtract a modifier and give you advantage and disadvantage? Because that might feel weird as well. So it's
because we've seen it with Cyberpunk. Being told a modifier is not really fun. Mm-hmm. Even if it's a -1, you're still I don't want to do this anymore now.
Well, for me, the thing is, I don't feel like they put modifiers on us enough, if that makes any sense.
Kinda, but if we're being consistently modified, it's not positively reinforcing you trying new things. If you're just consistently being told, that's a -1 because you're doing that. It's a -1 because you're doing that. And a majority of the times, from what I've seen a lot of DMs, rarely do you reward players with positive things. It's the occasional, like, that's super cool, now still make the roll. That's not going to change anything. Like, it's rare that you do that. It's more often not that someone does a negative modifier than they do positive.
No, that's very fair, but the only other way I could see it is by determining DVs, which then the skills and everything has to be back to that,
Or a number of successes. I think that could still be interesting. It would change, I think...
It would change a good amount of stuff.
Possibly the system might change of, like, instead of 2d6, it might be something else. Like, I could see it being, like, a d12 system, and then you get to roll a number of d12s based on possibly doing things of, like, hey, can I spend, like, 2 action points to get an extra d12?
But then we would have to invest into blank dice and then put a certain number of success stuff on the blank dice.
No, you would still make the DV. So a 5 and a 1 make a 6, so you roll a d12, and 6 and below is a success.
Oh, that's what you mean.
You roll a certain number of DV, like a certain number of d12s. Like a standard number of, like, okay, you only get to roll 1 d12, or standard number is like 2 d12s. And it's like, okay, you're going to need 1 success for this, you're going to need 2 successes, but you're still making the DV.
Oh, I see what you mean.
But then that's kind of where you get to do fun things of action points might be able to be spent to buy more d12s,
Huh.
It's an option. Like we've talked about personally, there are an infinite number of ways you can make a system.
Yeah. I've just never thought about it like that.
But it's a way that you keep the same skills, you still make the same DV, but instead of it is just simply, do you succeed or do you fail? It is, okay, how many successes do you have?
That's fair. I just feel like it could add a bit of overcomplication. You know what I mean? Because you're not only now just adding the DV, you're now adding these 2 numbers to get the DV, then you're rolling these number of dice, and you need each one of these dice to equal a certain number to then now get that many successes, and you need this many successes to actually succeed on that.
Possibly, but we've played Dune, and Dune's not that complex.
Dune is not that complex, I agree. However, I'm thinking about certain people in our group who don't process things well enough, like with that kind of stuff, and which is very fair. And them being like, okay, how much am I gonna have to come up with my own head?
I just know the system will lead to stagnation because there's no modifiers. Unless you enforce them, but there's no modifier changing. There's no changing of DVs. If I want a lockpick, the only difference between a normal lockpick and extremely hard lockpick is you just going, hey, take a -3.
Well, that's why I think we should have what it has like on the DM screen of having how it has like the difficulty DC measure. You should have a thing where it's like, these are your difficulties and this is how much you add for those difficulties or subtract for those difficulties.
Then I think this system needs to be changed though, because if every roll is going to take a modifier, then it feels like we just need a different type of rolling, because you shouldn't be modifying that in every roll.
No, and I'm not saying that I'm going to do that for every roll.
Yeah.
It's more of like, if you as the DM think that it gets to this difficulty for whatever roll, and most of the time it's never gonna be that crazy.
Yeah.
If you think it gets to this difficulty for that roll, then you give them this plus or minus. And that it has to be like a significant like difficulty to actually do.
Yeah.
Is the idea. So like, I'm not giving you +1s everywhere or +2s everywhere. Like, no, it's like, hey, you got 2 guys on you in the middle of combat and you're trying to lockpick a door. That's pretty difficult to do. I'm giving you a +2. Or -2, I'm sorry.
In a sense, though, but that's kind of why we play these things. Of like, how do you get to define my character being stressed out if that's what they're focusing on? Because it's, unless it's you don't have the lock picks, then I can see lock picking being more difficulty. But it's combat. Everybody is going to be stressed out by everything. So how do you get to determine the warrior doesn't get a -2 for attacking because they're surrounded by 4 people? Like, that's... it's...
Well, again, that goes into more combat related stuff and like skills in between combat. So it's a hard thing to kind of measure when we haven't play tested. So
yeah, but we've played Cyberpunk, and Cyberpunk is that system of those modifiers are based on do you have the right equipment? Is it a -1 is because it's cloudy, or a -4 because you're seeing through darkness or fog. Like there are modifiers that are not really combat based, that are just any role based. The issue is that you should have some way of being able to change that. And so that's my biggest fear is like, well, if you're going to give me a -2, then I just won't lockpick this. I'm just going to do something else. Because why would I attempt to do that when I know I'm being punished for it?
Then maybe it's certain effects. Maybe there are just effects that can give you that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because Pathfinder does that a lot too. Yeah. Where you because they have Pathfinder is very similar to D&D, and I get that, but they have a lot of effects that give you a lot of minuses and pluses. Yeah. So,
like if I hit someone with
maybe you're fleet-footed, so I'm giving you a +2 to this, but you got shaky hands right now, so I'm giving you a -2 to lockpick or whatever the fuck.
I think it would work well if players and DMs could ebb and flow with the minuses. That's what I like about Dune is, hey, this environment has has the foggy 2 condition. So everybody's going to increase their difficulty by 2, and then players get to go, okay, well, I also have this that might lower the difficulty,
Then that's probably what I need to start doing, is thinking about it more like effects.
Yeah, instead of I'm giving this to you because it's more difficult, more being like, okay, well, yeah, I am trying to lockpick this door and there's people surrounding me. Could I not get a chance to roll a concentration check to see if I can focus purely on this lockpicking and not worry about everything else? Yeah. Or maybe I took something that gives me a calm feat. So I'm like, oh, I've got calm, so I'm not going to worry about those 2 people. I feel like there needs to be the ebb and flow of...
No, that's very fair. And again, each level up is going to... is also going to allow you to take a feature. You're not only just getting experience points, you're also getting features. And those features can build up your characters in some way. And that's kind of because Divinity does that a lot. Where you get certain abilities and features, also with skill points and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And allows you to do way more with your character and do a build if you want to with that character. So maybe that's what I need to do with that, is you guys also can have certain features that give you pluses and minuses to things.
I think a feat list like D&D, which is a big list of different things you might be able to be skilled at. I think there should be more prerequisites. I don't think D&D has enough prerequisites. I think there's too many weird you're a barbarian with 4 intelligence, and yet you took the magic initiate feat.
Each ability and thing, you're going to need a certain amount of points and a certain amount of skills and stats to be able to actually do them.
But I think there's some that would be good, it not being super strict, because I would love the idea of what if my character took a feature that gave them a better push and lift speed.
Oh, that's fair.
They may not have a good might, but they have learned and specialized in pushing or lifting things very specifically.
No, that's fair, and that's kind of the worker machinations that I have, which are my robot race. They have a advantage on being able to lift and push things. But
I think prerequisites are good for if you want a fleet foot feature, you're going to need a certain number of agility.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of getting to play around with, only things that require prerequisites are the specialties in those fields. I might pick a low general based lift feature, but there's got to be some cool, like, I'm super might, I'm going to get this one feature that lets me throw double my length.
So features and abilities are going to be similar in that kind of regard, because you're also going to have abilities that require certain stats, and you can basically pick abilities based on what you want to build from. Like, I plan on having a might heavy melee ability that is just a sweep attack. Yeah. That allows you to hit multiple targets. And I plan on there being a feature with agility at some point that allows you to, like, basically do steady aim. Ooh. And stuff like that. The missile fire.
I want a feature for agility that lets me throw my light melee weapons.
So that depends on the weapon.
Yeah.
Weapons are going to have properties that allow you to do certain things with those weapons.
Because that's my biggest issue with D&D is that in real life, if I throw a dagger at you, that's going to kill you.
Yes.
But D&D does not make that feel at all. Like,
unless you're a rogue.
But that's sneak attack, which isn't really because it's a dagger. It's just any weapon that fits those properties can kind of do that.
Yeah.
I want to feel like a light agility weapon that can hold par with a warrior with my daggers and not need to be a specific class that
for sure
just does extra damage.
And I've been thinking about that as well whenever I was making my light melee chart, which I actually want to show you real quick. So this is the light melee weapons. So I have the category of weapon, and then I have your type of weapon, your cost, AP cost.
AP cost.
Each weapon is going to cost AP depending on how many attacks you want to do.
Yeah.
The damage type, and then durability.
Okay.
And then each one is going to have a property to them as well.
Okay.
So if we go over to like the dagger one, there are different types of daggers that you can get that do more damage. And they're going to have, most of them are going to have the you can throw it property and stuff like that. And they're going to all weapons are going to have a different property that you can kind of play around with.
Yeah.
Like I plan on it's like Baldur's Gate. Is how I'm kind of thinking about it. Where sometimes you get like a flourish, where you do like less damage, but you get to like stagger somebody or something like that. For the clubs, I was thinking of doing a smash ability that basically does like a light stun, where it subtracts AP from whoever you hit from.
Ooh. I just know in all games, usually, dex-based weapons are just bad.
For sure.
And there's no trade-off to it.
And that is why I'm, like, really trying to make sure each weapon has a unique feel and typing and stuff like that. Daggers and hand axes and spears are probably going to be the only light melee that you can actually throw. Like, you can throw the other ones, but it's not really going to do much.
Yeah.
An arming sword is going to have, probably with certain daggers as well, like a bleeding effect that does damage over time kind of things and like stuff like that. That's the idea.
Yeah.
And then you get feats that also get to stack onto that allow for like different things, and then you also get abilities that can like make things more interesting with the certain type of weapons that you choose. So that's the idea of how building is going to be for combat. So that's
Went down a real Gandrya rant.
Yeah, but you know what? You went on a real Dragon's Dogma rant. So.
Hey, my wording is, we went down a real.
No, you spent most of the time not talk. I spent most of the time just sitting here listening to you talk about that, which is fair.
I said we went down a rant about Gandrya.
Okay, fair enough.
We both went down a rant.
Yeah, that's fair.
And yes, Dragon's Dogma was my big thing. We talked about it in the last episode about me starting it.
And this is my big thing, so...
80 hours later, I think I get to talk about Dragon's Dogma.
No, that's fair.
After 4 episodes of me being like, do I buy it? Do I not buy it?
Hey, 2 weeks of work, I feel like I get to talk about this, so...
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, what's it? That's basically all the big stuff I've done.
I'm trying to think of
much else that we...
I don't think there's much... I can't remember much else. It's been a pretty chill, so...
Yep.
We doing your episode next week?
I think so.
Okay.
Which I do have an idea for that episode and everything. Which I'm thinking of talking about. Quality versus quantity in video games.
Oh, in video games.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because Dragon's Dogma and some other open world games have kind of made me really feel like, does the quantity of a game equal a good amount for the quality of the game?
Mm-hmm.
And also quantity of time in a game
Yeah.
versus the quality of the game. You know? Does it feel good to be playing an 80-hour game if you don't feel like the quality is enough there?
Yeah.
You know?
If you just kind of have to run through it and there's not much there. Okay.
So that's the idea
That's fun.
to talk about. So.
Rad. Well, I don't think I have anything else.
I don't think I do either.
It's good to have you back.
I'm glad to be back. I'm so happy to have my
Should be on a normal schedule.
My whole life back to me. I'm so happy to have it. So.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be back to posting every week. If we're smart, I will also do my episode next week with you, so we can get one as a backup again.
That'd be pretty smart. And I shouldn't pick up another shift, so as long as you pick me up when we start immediately, we can get 2 episodes knocked out.
So, but yeah, schedule should be back.
Yep.
Should be back to some fun things. We gotta start Way of Kings again.
We do.
I've been craving it. Soon.
I need to get back into that series, that entire series. I just need to get back into.
I really want to listen to Mistborn. Oh, that was the other thing.
Oh, the Mistborn series, yes.
Book list that I think I want to start again. Once I finish some of my audiobooks, I really want to start Way of Kings again. I think after the first 3 books of Way of Kings, I want to move to Mistborn. I think after Words of Radiance and Oath of Redemption?
No. Oh, I know what you're talking about.
But after... Because we've read the first book together, and we both kind of started the second book. Oathbringer,
yeah.
I think after those 3, I want to move on to Mistborn, which is kind of his most digestible series.
Yes.
There has been a series that I have seen and I have not heard much about, but I have, for some god reason, and I'll show you them after we end the episode, been getting a lot of TikToks over of... the first book is called Gideon the Ninth. And from what I remember, it's a world of like necromancy, and our main person, Gideon, is like the 9th son or daughter of the 9th person, and it's also like... I think it's a job title. I don't remember much, but I've been getting a lot of cool clips, and I'll show them to you. But it just has the feel of like we're deadly assassins, but we're just wearing like a gray cloak and gray pants, and it's this like clean. There's 4 of them. And I was like, I think that's gonna be my next big series I read. So
my book list. I really want to do. I really want to finish that. That series that you showed me, the Cowboy series.
Dead Acre.
I really want to finish that because honestly I really like the setting and just the character is super interesting to me. Plus Arthur Morgan.
Yeah.
Gotta love Arthur Morgan. So I want to finish that series. Definitely want to do Way of Kings again, Words of Radiance, all that.
Yeah.
Need to get that done. And then I have been thinking of downloading the book that you lent me a while ago, seeing if they're on Audible, the Dragon Realm series.
Oh, Legend of the Dragon Realms?
Yeah, I was thinking of seeing if I can download them on Audible and listening to them, because I do want to continue that series because I really was enjoying reading it. I just kind of lost time.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking. I really want to get into more books this year. I think that's just a thing that I just want to continue.
Legends of the Dragon Realm by Knights of the Forest. Legends of the Dragon Realms. They have only 3 titles.
Okay. Hey, that's a good start.
None of them are the books you read. They look to be like whole like more. I don't know. They look weird.
Okay.
Well. So I don't know if that's gonna be one that you're gonna be able to do.
Well, I'll figure it out because I do want to get back into that series.
Yeah, it looks like this author's most popular Audible stuff is like Diablo and World of Warcraft books.
Yeah, that's about right. If not, I'll find some way to read them. But
I still own them.
That's true.
I can get rid of them. But anyways, that's all for me.
That's all for me.
I will see you.
See you next week.
See you tomorrow, technically.
See you tomorrow, but for the
nerds,
next week.
see you next week.
Right.
Bye bye.